Thanks for joining us for the KOHO 101 Community Connection Podcast, a look at business in the greater Wenatchee area.
It's the KOHO Morning Show. Great to have you with us. I'm Chris Hansen. Pleased to have the Wenatchee Valley Chamber of Commerce in-house with us once again for another in our continuing series of Community Connections podcasts with the Chamber. Going to be talking today with Shiloh Burgess, as usual, from the Chamber, their executive director for this segment, along with Matt Lyons from TRED. That is a new organization here in the Valley. Stands for Trails, Recreation, Education, Advocacy, and Development. And we'll find out more about each of those compartments, as well as some other information about the start of TRED and also about where it's going in the future from Matt and Shiloh as we say good morning to both. Matt, Shiloh, I appreciate the time. Thanks.
Thank you for having us.
Happy to be here.
Absolutely. So, Shiloh, this is a huge piece. I mean, outdoor, some people might be shaking their heads going, what does this organization have to do with the Chamber? But it actually has a lot to do with the Chamber because it has to do with the development of recreation and outdoor activities and ways for people to come into the Valley and explore everything, in between. So how is the Chamber, I guess, wrapped around TRED, first of all, before we get started?
Well, several years ago, as we heard from Stacy, we had Our Valley, Our Future survey the community and create this big vision. And woven through that big vision everywhere was recreation, recreation, recreation. And it's really interesting because, when we think about our origin story as a community, we've always been connected to the natural assets. Growing up, it was probably, 1-2 degrees. Everybody, like 8 out of 10 people probably were connected to agriculture, right? Everybody was somehow connected to our ag industry here. And as the industries have changed in the community and different individuals have come into this place, we're still very much rooted in our natural environment. But I think what is that 8 out of 10 people connection, it's now outdoor recreation. And whether you're mountain biking or trail running or paddling or dirt biking or equestrian, whatever you're doing, there is a place for you in this beautiful space. But it's how do we make that all work when you have all of these unique recreational interests and this wonderful, natural asset around us? How do you protect it? How do you develop it appropriately for the community? And then how do you harness the outdoor economy? And so out of that vision came the need, it was a game changer for the community, of creating an outdoor recreation organization to help us navigate through that. And the Chamber was charged with doing that. And we went, well, you're right. We're in the tourism business, we're in business's business, but we're not the outdoor experts. And then a group of very committed and amazing business people and even public agencies came together and nonprofits to birth what became TRED. And then there's Matt.
Yeah, it actually started back in 2014. There were 5 of us, local community leaders, people that live here I think we were just having a coffee and we were talking one day about how this place is so special where we live and all the assets that we have, but we're noticing that there's a lot of people coming here. And we didn't want to become a community that was bombarded by people coming here to recreate and destroying those assets while they were doing so. So we got together and said, how can we form this group that protects this sense of place that we all know and love, protects the assets that's why we live here, that's why they're coming here, and also advocates, educates, and enhances those assets as well. So we didn't know how to do that. And then the Our Valley, Our Future thing happened, and the game changer was announced, and we looked at that and said, we can fill that need. So we got together with the Chamber and said, I think we can do this. How do we do this? And so then we started the paperwork to become a nonprofit organization. The Chamber took over the fiscal sponsorship of us while we were going through that process. And then a few years later, we're now 3 years into this process, and we have made a lot of exciting announcements and changes and partnerships that I'm happy to talk about.
Outstanding. Well, I think one of the first things we could do here, Matt, is just break down the acronym that is the moniker for your organization, TRED. So it starts with the trail system. We're obviously looking to add to that, but we start from what point with trails here in North Central Washington? Yeah,
we get this question all the time because when people think about trails, they typically think about dirt trails. And for us, trails means everything you recreate on. So if it's dirt, pavement, water, snow, rocks, you name it, that's a trail in our world. And so we want to be the organization that brings all outdoor rec, no matter what season, no matter what you do, under one umbrella. And that was kind of something that was needed back then. There were a lot of different organizations that dealt specifically with each of those outdoor rec groups, and they were kind of siloed. And we thought, wow, wouldn't it be great if we could all come together and advocate for the same thing? So that's kind of the trails part of it. And then recreation obviously is recreation, and that's what we're all about. And education, the E, especially coming out of the pandemic that we've just, thank goodness, have come out of, we've noticed that there's quite a few more new users out there. And sometimes with all good intentions, they just want to go outside and play, but maybe don't have the experience. And maybe it's their first season of doing this. And so we really need to educate users on how to recreate responsibly, wayfinding, what you do with your litter, what you do with human waste when there's no toilet. So the education piece has become, because of the pandemic, a huge need that our land managers are seeing, our locals are seeing. And so we're really focused on the education piece right now. And then advocacy is bringing everybody together. And we do that with an ex officio group. Right now we're above 50 different members. So that's land managers, the chambers, local businesses, all the outdoor rec groups. And we bring everybody together quarterly. They kind of help guide us, and they guide our board in what they'd like to see. We find efficiencies. There's networking. We'll talk about a project that the Forest Service may be doing, and 5 people in the room. When we take a break, we'll run to the Forest Service person there and say, how can I help with this? I have this idea. I mean, it's kind of amazing. And then, of course, the D is development, because as we see this new use, our trailheads are full. Parking is an issue. Our community that lives next to those trailheads are seeing an impact in their driveways and on their local streets. So we need more development. We need toilets. We need bigger parking areas. We need to make those connections between trail systems so people can expand and grow in their outdoor rec activities. So that's TREAD.
Very good. Matt Lyons with us today from TREAD, along with Shiloh Burgess, Executive Director of the Wenatchee Valley Chamber of Commerce. This is part of our Community Connections podcast series with the Chamber. Talking today with Matt and Shiloh about the organization TREAD, and also about how it weaves into the Chamber, and about the big picture here in North Central Washington in all those ways and more. So Shiloh, as far as a continuation of this conversation is concerned, where's important for us to steer next from the Chamber's perspective?
Well, we're really excited about everything that Matt is just described with TREAD because of the need that's there. We were so excited about it that during a meeting with the Washington Tourism Alliance, which I have just stepped down as chair, I've been in that role for about 3 years, we had an opportunity to have them here for a outreach meeting with the Trails and Lakes region, I guess you could say, which was all of the folks connected to tourism who wanted to connect with Washington Tourism Alliance and learn about what they were doing. And what kept coming up was this organization called TREAD. TREAD. Well, what's TREAD? So next thing you know, Matt's on the stage with Mike Moe, and he's explaining TREAD and a really cool, innovative product that they have developed in response to the challenges that they've just described. And so what I would love for Matt to share a little bit is about this TREAD Map app that's been getting a lot of talk over the last month around the state and here locally. And so talk to us about the origin of the app, Matt, and where it is today and where we hope it's going in the future.
Yeah, it's really interesting how this came to be. I was actually attending a meeting with the Methow Valley Trails Alliance in Winthrop, and I was presenting on this new concept of TREAD, and we were forming a partnership with that organization. And they also had another presenter, and his name was Mark Rothmeyer, and he owns a company called Dharma Maps, and he's been doing the mapping business for 20 years. And he's always had this passion project of there's a better way to do this map application, but it needs community buy-in and it needs this grassroots effort. And we need the land managers and the users to be filling in the information from the back end of this thing. So it's not just a for purchase thing, it's a community thing. And after I got done listening to him speak, I pulled him aside after the meeting and said, I don't know what's going on right now, but your mission and vision aligns with our mission and vision. And this is just a digital way to represent what we're all about. How do we get together? We formed a partnership. We got together and TREAD Map was born. You can go to your Google Play Store. You can go to the App Store. You can type in TREAD Map. You can download it for free right now. And then this partnership with the WTA came about with this huge need, and everybody said, well, we need this, we need this, we need this. So this proof of concept that we developed for a couple years here in Wenatchee, it grew to Leavenworth, it grew to Chelan. All of a sudden it was gaining traction, and then people said, we need this everywhere. So with our partnership, we just expanded it to 5 counties. So now we're in Okanagan, Grant, Chelan, Douglas, and Kittitas counties. And now it's the pilot program has proven its worth, and now we're going to go statewide. And
wow.
So the way I think the way that you want to think about this is it's signage in your pocket, number one. It doesn't matter what language you speak. It knows where you are, and it shows you that you're a little blue dot and you're right here. So you can see where you're going and where you need to go. Because we know that land managers have difficulty with signage and appropriate wayfinding. So it solves that need for sure. but more importantly, it connects the users. So think of it like Waze, right? So if I use Waze to navigate my car, I can see that there's debris in the road because somebody told me that as they drove by it, or there's a cop on the corner, or whatever it looks like, right? It's the users informing in real time what's going on out there. So we implemented that into the app. So right now you can go out on a trail, come across a tree that's down, hit a button, 2 buttons, and now everybody knows there's a tree down, or the parking lot's full, or the trail conditions are too muddy and maybe we shouldn't do that yet, or it's clear of snow and ready to go. So as more and more users are out there, they're informing all of us on the actual real-time conditions that are going on right now. Yeah. And then on the back end, the land managers are informing us on all of their real-time conditions. So fire closures are announced right away. We have smoke sensors everywhere. So you can decide you want to go outside with your family today, and this canyon looks like it has really unhealthy air, but this canyon looks a little bit clearer. So maybe I'll go there today. So it's just this perfect combination of land managers and users informing in real time what's going on out there. There's a lovely social media component to it where we can post trip reports and people can see exciting places that they might want to visit. And then it's just recently grown to this whole other thing where, because of the pandemic and because of the overuse, we call it overloved areas, the land managers came to us and said, how can we inform the public that this place is overloved? And we said, well, how about we start doing some land manager explanations? We could even film you, and you could hit a button. So if I go to Stewart Lake Trailhead, which is one of our most popular trailheads around here, you'll actually see a video now from a wilderness ranger who explains that when the parking lot's full, maybe you should have a plan B. And then it'll explain that 0.5 miles from here, there's another trailhead, and 10 miles from here, there's another trailhead. And we recommend that maybe you go there for a better experience. So we're really just trying to meet the needs of the community in all these different ways. And then bring in the chamber. Bring in the local businesses. And how do we highlight local businesses that are already helping local trails? So we have a lot of local businesses that already support outdoor rec organizations. They support volunteer work parties. They really are the advocates for local trails. So how do we highlight those businesses? And then how do we direct tourists who may be visiting us to frequent those businesses? So we developed a sustainable tourism rec plan. And we actually are saying hey, thank you for coming to town. Thank you for visiting. And while you're here, you're probably not going to pick up a shovel. You might not pick up a pair of loppers and help maintain the trails you just played on. But we would really love it if you went here and purchased something knowing that part of your dollar will go back to those local trails. So it's all about bringing in the entire community and bringing it back to the locals. Wow.
And I would guess too, Matt, that the real-time applications of this from the user's perspective is actually going to help with, if it hasn't already, response and mitigation from the agencies that actually manage those trails.
Absolutely. As soon as those users announce any kind of issues they're seeing out there, we all get to see it. More importantly, the land managers get to see it and address it right away.
Yeah. What are the early returns on the app? Obviously, you'll be able to track how many people are using it, et cetera, et cetera. Is it blowing your minds as far as, how many are using it? Is it about what you expected? A little less even? Or?
We just had a press release go out. We've had a few interviews. It's kind of taken off around the state. And just in the last day, we had over 900 people download the app in one 24-hour period. Wow. So it's exponentially blowing up right now, which is great because the more people that use it, the more information we get.
Yeah. What's really key about that, since it's really only piloted in such a small area, is that at least over 25% of those are from the King County area. And so that's really great for us as the one who's responsible for doing tourism or destination marketing, because that's a direct communication opportunity for those visitors so that we can work on the recreational, recreate responsibly, the stewardship to tell our story. And what I love about this is it also connects us to our partners in the different counties, right? Mm-hmm. So we have an opportunity to understand, how do we move that? I mean, if I go to recreate someplace, I don't mind if I drive 45 minutes to get to a trailhead or an hour. So you may be anchored here, but now you're out in Ancient Lakes. Now you're up near Lake Chelan. Now you're up, near Lake Wenatchee. Maybe I do want to take that 2-hour drive and go up into the Met Howe. And because this app makes it so for me, and it helps me get there, and it helps me understand what I'm getting into, helps me understand what I should, be bringing, or who can come along or shouldn't come along, or all that good stuff, and what's really happening. And so I love the community that it creates, not only for us here locally, and that's the other piece too, is it's a local asset, right? One of the things we've learned as a chamber when we do visitor services is we need to do it with our locals in mind. And so this is a great value add for our visitors, but it's an even bigger value add for those folks that live here every day. And so if you have not checked out the TreadMap app, we would love for you to go and do that. Now, I will say to everyone, it is, we're still proving the concept. We're still working in this. And so it's your opportunity too to say, hey, this is great, but I'd love to see this feature. Or how do I do this? And we're really trying to emphasize, some training for our frontline workers around hotels and even my staff, so that they are well equipped and can point people there. But it's a great way to recreate in our community like locals, if you will, and help us solve some of the challenges that we have. The visitor will have a better experience. The locals have a better experience if we understand more. I found some trails on there just the other day. I'm like, I've never hiked here. This is amazing. And I feel more comfortable going because of the video that's there, because of the pictures, because of the trip reports. I can do this, which is exciting to me. I might be going in a different direction than I've never been because I have a little bit more information. It makes me feel safer and more confident, and I love that. So we're very excited about this partnership. We're very appreciative of the state tourism office, if you will, Washington Tourism, investing in this, and we're excited for the opportunity to take it across the state. But we have to do it responsibly because it is really rooted in that community bit. So it's not going to be instant for across the state, but we'll be bringing more communities and more counties on here in the coming months.
Yeah, and it's really exciting because as it grows and as we have more and more people using it and more regions added, it's built the way that people need it and the way that people want it. But I want to give a huge shout out to the chambers and even to the Washington Tourism Alliance. I mean, when you think about chambers and tourism, you think about billboards and we need to get people to come here and spend money. And that's kind of the way I used to think about tourism. And they've done an amazing job of pivoting a little bit towards, instead of destination development and like get people to come here, it's more like they're coming. How do we help educate them while they're here? So it's become like this destination education or destination management or destination sustainability kind of a pivot. And I think that's amazing because they will still come, they will still enjoy their time, they'll still spend their money here. And that's what we need for economic development. But it's how to do it the way we would like you to do it while you're here. And to have chambers and the WTA on board with that kind of messaging is just, it's a partnership made in heaven.
Yeah, when you alluded to that as part of the education piece of the acronym that makes up your namesake, Matt, TREAD, I couldn't help but think of the grand task of educating a public that's visiting an entire area as though they were visiting a theme park. I mean, it's very much the same thing, except you're not fenced into one area. But think about it. In a theme park, if you go to recreate, you're going to throw your trash away in designated areas. You're going to know what lines to stand in, where to buy tickets, where to buy food. Everything's self-contained, essentially, within that park. But this is one big natural theme park in so many ways. So trying to get people to think about it in that light is part of your task, your challenge, and part of, I guess, that educational piece and so many other pieces that we've talked about in this today. So it's a super neat challenge, and it's great to see because I think it's going to go a long ways to just helping out with the stewardship of lands in general, regardless of whether people use them or not. It's going to create an understanding of our connection with the earth in a lot of ways.
That's the other thing I love about this app and the partnership and where we're thinking right now, and this is a big vision of TREAD, is he talks about the businesses that are investing and sponsoring and being part of the app. And they want to do that because they believe and they have a recreation or they have a trail story. And that's kind of a qualifier. You need to have a trail story to be connected to the app in that kind of way. And there's a lot of ways that businesses can connect with the users on the app, which is great. And organizations, there's a calendar. So if they're doing an event, a work party or whatever, a movie night or whatnot to support their organizations, visitors can check that out. Locals can check that out. So it's a great communication bit. But we're working at the higher level with the state to look at an opportunity because there is a way to use the app for, if I'm out there and I love this trail and I want to keep sustaining it, I'd pay $5 for that coffee. So why wouldn't I pay $5 to go towards a foundation that will help these areas maintain these beautiful places? And so that's an exciting development that we are trying to figure out between everyone and how to do that. But because TREAD's a 501c3 and WTA has some connections all across the state and Dharma's the private company, there's some really cool synergies to bring all of these things together. And so we're hoping in the not too distant future that people will be able to help support the app, will help be able to support recreation in Washington and its sustainability by donating specifically through the app to these places, which is an initiative that Oregon started as well. It's like, you love this place, let's travel Oregon sustainably and give back to these areas. And so we're looking to do something like that as well in Washington, which is awesome to me.
Onward and upward. There's an awful lot happening these days, it seems like. Shiloh Burgess talking to us today from the Wenatchee Valley Chamber of Commerce, along with Matt Lyons from TREAD. That's Trails, Recreation, Education, Advocacy, and Development here on the KOHO Morning Show. It's part of our Community Connections podcast series with the Chamber. And again, this is a series that you can download on demand any place you download your favorite podcast or at our website, KOHO101.com. Also a link at the Chamber's website if you want to hear more. We've been doing these for about a month now and are into phase number 2. And Shiloh, Matt, I appreciate the time very much. Anything else as we close out here? Or?
Well, looking forward to phase number 3 coming up next week. We'll have a conversation around tourism, which is just kind of, moving into. So it's great.
I really appreciate the opportunity to be here and look forward to more and more outdoor rec opportunities.
Well, we'll look forward to more and more chats with you in the future, Matt, about the TREAD app and other things that are happening as well around the state. So stay well, and we'll talk again down the road. Shiloh, Matt, I appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is the KOHO 101 Community Connection Podcast. Check back often for a continuing look at business in the greater Wenatchee area.